Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with a friend of mine who was talking about his relationship and how his upbringing and the way that he grew up was impacting his relationship. See, picture this. You've got a family driving down the road. We're headed towards a friend's house or we're headed to church, whatever it is. And everybody's fighting. Everybody's angry. Mom and dad are fighting. Kids and mom and dad are arguing. Whatever, the worst case scenario possible. And we pull up to said friend's house or we pull up to church. And what do? We don't get out of the car and keep fighting. The first person that asks us, hey, how are you doing? We say, great, fine. Right? What we do is we put on a facade. We flip a switch and we pretend like everything is okay. And my friend who was sharing this with me was saying, this is actually something that's manifesting. This is what my family did. And some of that's okay and some of that's right. You don't want to carry around, I picture the Peanuts guy, the pig pen, who's always got this dust storm around him. That's not what you want out of your relationship or your family. However, we don't always have to put on a fake face. And so in our relationships, when we believe that happy couples don't fight, then when we disagree, we stuff that, we bottle it, we don't share. When something's not right, we don't tell other people. And then when someone who's a trusted friend or a pastor or somebody in your life says, how are things? We don't say, you know what, I'm struggling with this. We say, everything's great. Because we've believed the myth that happy couples don't fight. This is the Bliss myth. And so in our marriage myths series, we are trying to dispel some of these myths that we inherit, that we don't even choose to believe. They just kind of happen to us. And then in our relationships, they trip us up. They slowly erode things all over time, and they really impact us. And unfortunately, oftentimes those same beliefs when it comes to our romantic relationships play out in our relationship with God, right? Because that's supposed to be a really significant relationship as well. But in our marriages, if we believe that happy couples don't fight, then we never learn to navigate the difficulties, or we pretend they don't exist and we push them away, we push them off. And one of the things that often happens, one of the verses that kind of comes to mind and perpetuates this idea is the idea of never go to bed angry. I had somebody tell me on my wedding, the night before my wedding, the rehearsal, the one thing that we've done that saved our marriage is never go to bed angry. I think it's an okay idea, but it's only partially biblical. So in Ephesians 4, 25 through 27 is where this comes from. It says, first, therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. So the way that applies in a relationship, obviously, your spouse, the person sleeping next to you, sitting next to you, wherever you are, is your neighbor. So that suggests that things aren't always rosy and peachy, and when we have a disagreement, when we have an issue, that we don't just put it aside and say, I'm fine, everything's good. It says we are supposed to speak truthfully, put off falsehood, do not lie. When we do so, we actually deceive our spouse. And when we do that with our faith, we actually are trying to deceive God that, no, it's fine, everything's okay. Then the verse goes on to say, we are all members of one body, so in a marriage, realize that what we do inside of that marriage impacts both of us, the anger or the deception. And it says, in your anger, do not sin. So when we're upset, when we're angry, make sure, yes, we should keep a pretty cool, calm, collected approach. We're in this together. And when I lash out at my spouse, it actually hurts me because we're part of one body. And then it says, do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. And this is that never go to bed angry idea, right? Well, the problem is that some things that we deal with in our relationships, real topics, real struggles, they can't be solved in one conversation sometimes. And if you try to stay up all night, like it's 3 a.m. now because I can't go to bed angry, now we're not having as healthy of a conversation. it seems like what the Bible's saying is really like, let's be healthy about this. Let's communicate to the person. Like, this isn't resolved. I still have some issues here, but I'm still going to be there in the morning when we wake up. Not, we have to pull an all-nighter until this is solved. And then lastly, it says, do not give the devil a foothold. So the whole point, that's the overarching idea, is when we are angry, when we're upset, when we're fighting, the door does crack a bit to potentially doing something wrong. However, it doesn't say that your relationship should be awesome all the time and you should never have issues. And if we do that, then we don't speak truthfully. We actually deceive our spouse, and in your relationship with God, when you're struggling, when you're hurting, when you're disappointed, we should tell him, because it says, put off falsehood and speak truthfully. Cry out to God. Cry out to your spouse. Be honest. Tell each other how you're feeling. It's a myth that happy couples don't fight. In fact, it seems that through this verse that if we put off that falsehood and we speak truthfully, that we step into this and we solve these things, that our relationship actually gets stronger, our bond actually gets better. And so this week in your faith, as you engage your relationship and you engage God, be honest, speak truthfully, be cautious about how you do so in your anger, but that doesn't mean that it's the absence of anger. So this week, live out your faith in an honest, truthful way, and see how your relationship with God grows, and see how your relationship with your spouse grows.